Welcome to today's episode where we dive into one of the most fascinating economic comparisons of our time, China versus India. It's the tale of two giants, both with over 1 billion people, both waking up after centuries of slumber. But their journeys have been very, very different. Let's break down why China has surged ahead and why India is still catching up. It's like watching a race where one runner trained on rocket fuel while the other was stuck in traffic trying to find his lucky running shoes. Picture this, it's 1978, disco is in full swing, and China's just emerging from a period of, let's just say, internal reflection after the Cultural Revolution. Enter Deng Xiaoping, a tiny man with a giant vision. He's like, all right comrades, we've been doing the whole communism thing, but maybe, just maybe, we need to spice things up a bit. And spice things up he did. Deng ushered in an era of reforms that would transform China from a closed-off, centrally planned economy to, well, the economic powerhouse it is today. He essentially cracked open the doors, letting in a little bit of that capitalist air. But don't get it twisted, this wasn't about overnight makeovers. It was more like giving 1 billion people a crash course in capitalism. Private businesses, allowed. Foreign investment, come on in. Special economic zones, open for business. Remember when everything you bought said made in China? Yeah, there's a reason for that. China became the world's factory, churning out everything from plastic toys to high-tech gadgets. How did they do it? Well, they had a few things going for them. First, a massive, and I mean massive, workforce. And let's just say, labor costs weren't exactly breaking the bank. But it wasn't just cheap labor. China also pumped money into infrastructure like it was going out of style. Roads, railways, ports, you name it, they built it. And they built it fast. They were basically playing SimCity in real life, and winning. Add in some pro-business policies, a sprinkle of government support, and boom, you've got yourself an economic miracle. While other countries were stuck in debates, China was busy building and building big. We're talking high-speed rail lines that crisscross the country, connecting cities like never before. Think about it, you can have breakfast in Shanghai, lunch in Beijing, and still be back in time for evening tea. Try doing that in most other countries. And it wasn't just trains. China went all in on highways, bridges, airports, and those futuristic-looking smart cities you see in sci-fi movies. Except this was real life. These massive infrastructure projects didn't just look impressive, they supercharged the economy, made transportation a breeze, and connected rural areas to the booming cities. Now, before we crown China the undisputed champion of this economic showdown, let's address the elephant, or rather the dragon in the room. China's success has come at a cost, and that cost is, well, complicated. We're talking about limitations on personal freedoms, censorship, and human rights concerns that are hard to ignore. It's a system where the government calls the shots, and everyone else falls in line. Some argue that this top-down approach is what allowed China to make such rapid progress. They say that with a more democratic system, things would have been bogged down by debates and bureaucracy. But others argue that sacrificing individual liberties for economic gain is a dangerous game. For years, China was known for making cheaper versions of Western products. But then, something interesting happened. They started innovating. We're talking cutting-edge technology, homegrown tech giants like Huawei and Tencent, and a shift from made in China to designed in China. So how did they do it? Well, they invested heavily in education, particularly in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They poured money into research and development, encouraging companies to push boundaries and come up with the next big thing. And let's not forget the role of the government. They provided incentives, created a supportive environment for tech companies to flourish, and even threw in a little bit of that national pride flavor to the mix. So where does India fit into all of this? Well, India's economic journey has been a little different. While China was busy opening up to the world in the late 70s, India was still figuring things out. It wasn't until 1991 that India really started to embrace economic reforms, and even then, it was a more gradual, cautious approach compared to China's rip-off-the-Band-Aid style. Some might even say it was like trying to turn a giant cruise ship with a paddle. It's slow, but you eventually get there. But here's the thing. India has a few aces up its sleeve. So, while China has had a head start and a different approach, India is making strides in its own way. The country is a hotbed of innovation, with a young and increasingly tech-savvy population. Plus, let's not forget the power of democracy. While China's system might be efficient, India's democratic values foster a different kind of dynamism. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and both countries have their own unique strengths and challenges. Stay tuned as we continue to explore these fascinating economic stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights.